Let's go ahead and head to the phones. And Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Chad. Good to be with you, as always.
Yeah, glad to be here. Now, I come to Austin and you head out. Now, that's just, it happens. I appreciate you coming on. Let's talk about the session so far. How do you think it's going? The work that you and those in the Senate have done, and then overall with the House, how do you think everything's going so far?
Last year, everyone said, Chad, that we had the best conservative Republican session in history in the Texas Senate, and I think the legislature had a terrific session. The entire session. This session, it's even better and stronger. This session we had a chance to prepare for day one. Last session we were campaigning almost up until the beginning of session. In fact, we couldn't even officially hire employees until the election in November, and they couldn't start until the inauguration for both Greg Abbott and I. So this year you can see the work of having this interim period to have committees that I appointed, issues that I asked them to review and have testimony on, like property taxes around the state. And so we listed 30 priorities, Chad, before the session. And of those, for example, reducing property taxes, school choice, keeping men out of ladies' rooms, and not having boys and girls having to shower together. Like if you go to the Fox website, you'll see where that's happening already in schools around the country. Protecting our law enforcement, protecting life, all on our top 30 issues. Well, as of today, Chad, we have already passed, and we're not even out of March, we've already passed half of our top 30. And by next Thursday, the end of March, we will have passed somewhere well over 20 to 25 of our priority pieces of legislation. And that's a tribute to the hard work of our senators, like your Senator Charles Perry, the hard work of our senators who have done a fantastic job and moved legislation off the floor. To give you an example, Chad, Governor Abbott gave us 4 emergency items back in the end of January, and that was to pass a bill to stop sanctuary cities, to pass a CPS reform, Child Protective Services, ethics reform, and the Convention of States. We passed all 4 of them within 2 weeks. So no one can work faster and harder and in a more conservative manner than the Texas Senate.
Visiting with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick here on the Chad Hasty Show, live from the Capitol. Let's talk about some comments that have gone back and forth, it seems, between you and the House Speaker. I had the House Speaker on earlier today, and there was a comment that you made just the other day, I believe on Robert Pratt's show, where you were talking about the speaker having a different audience than you. He agreed with you, by the way. He said that he does have a different audience, that you play to the state, that you play to everybody, that he mentioned your radio background, entertainment background. Again, I'm not sure completely where he was going with that, than to say that.
I don't know. I think you're a pretty upstanding citizen, and you have that same background. Look, I'm the lieutenant governor. I'm the lieutenant governor of the state of Texas. I take my job seriously, and I think everyone can see how hard I worked as a senator for 8 years, always being ranked as the top conservative. I know the process. That's why we've been able to move much more legislation than any other Senate in history, faster, sooner, more conservative. I know the system. I know the rules. I know the members. We have a great working relationship. So I'm very proud of everything I've done in my life, in my career, and I'm very proud of this great blessing of being lieutenant governor. Look, here is the truth, and look, I don't battle with the speaker. My job is to pass legislation out of the Senate that I promised the people I would do when I campaigned, and I've done that. We'll continue to do that. Greg Abbott and I are elected statewide. The people of Texas elect us. A speaker, this speaker, or any speaker, is elected by the members of the House, and he has said many times that he has to please the members of the House. If he doesn't get elected Speaker. And when you have a House that has, I think it's 56 Democrats and 94 Republicans, he has to play to that audience. I don't begrudge him that. I understand that. But the fact is that The people of Texas elected me to do this job, and they elected me to reduce their property taxes, to secure the border, to not have boys and girls showering together in the 10th grade, to pass school choice, to pass strong law enforcement and pro-life issues. That's what I've always done. That's what I always will do, because that's what we're supposed to do, Chad, when we run for office. You make a campaign, you say what you're going to do, you do what you said you were going to do, because that's what you're supposed to do. And that's what we do in the Senate.
Do you believe that the House Speaker, if he wanted to put, because he's in a powerful position, could he put his weight behind getting the bathroom bill to the floor, getting sanctuary cities to the floor faster, getting school choice to the floor? Because we've all heard in the media, you've heard this too, I'm sure, that once it hits the House, maybe not sanctuary cities, but the other two, the bathroom bill and school choice, if once those two hit the House, they're dead. If he were to put his weight behind those and say, I want them debated on the House floor, do you think that they would get there?
Well, if they get to the floor, they will pass. You have 94 Republicans. You need 76 members of 150 House members to pass a bill. I believe that 76 Republicans or more don't think men should walk into ladies' rooms, because that's what 80% of their constituents believe. I believe that more than 76 Republicans would vote to keep boys and girls from showering together in the 10th grade, because that's what 80% of not only their Republican voters think, but over 65% of their Democrat voters think. I think that if property tax reform gets to the floor, the Republicans would vote for it. I think if school choice gets to the floor, which 80% of Republicans believe parents should have that choice in every school district for their child, it would pass. Look, the Speaker has the same power that I have as Lieutenant Governor. I appoint all the chairmen. He appoints all the chairmen. I appoint all the members of the committee. He appoints all the members of the committee. He decides which committees get the bills. So it's not just the bill to the floor. Your real clout is having chairmen who share the vision of the voters and members of that committee who share the vision, so that bills get out of committees. And so if you look at they're 2-1 Republican in the House, so there's really nothing in the House that the Democrats should be able to stop. I mean, the Republicans have 94, 95 members, and the Democrats have whatever it is, 55 or 56. In the Senate, we have 20 out of 31. And one of the things I did, Chad, that I campaigned on, which was history-making, quite frankly, was we had a rule in the Senate forever that you had to have 21 votes to bring a bill to the floor. We've only had 20 Republicans. That's the most we've ever had, and that's just been in recent times. That meant that the Democrats in the Senate could block any bill. If you have to have 21 to bring a bill to the floor, and they have 11 members, then they can just block bills. And so I campaigned on, as a freshman senator many years ago, to change that rule to 19. Not because we had 20 Republicans, but that was 60% and more reasonable than two-thirds. Madison said, and others who framed our Constitution, you can't have tyranny of the minority. In other words, you can't let one-third of the elected officials block what two-thirds want, because obviously the two-thirds were elected by the majority of the people. So on day one, as Lieutenant Governor last session, 2015, we changed the rule to 19. And once we changed that rule, Chad, that gave Republicans power. And so the Speaker has the same power over everything that I have in the Senate. So he got elected the first time, I think, by the main vote was all of the Democrats, or almost all the Democrats, and a handful of Republicans, and then everyone else made it unanimous. But he has a different constituency. I respect that, and I understand it. That does not stop me from doing what the people elected me to do. My job is to get bills out of the Senate. And by next week, we will have, as I said, somewhere between 23 and 27 of our top 30 bills out before the end of March, which has never happened in history. And, you know, and being a talk show host in my career and a news anchor, Chad, very quickly,
Sure.
It prepared me for this job. It prepared me for this job because for years, like you, I got a chance to listen. I got a chance to listen to the voice of the people for years. I got a chance to hear what they cared about. I understood the issues. I understood where the voters were. And the voters in West Harris County, in my listening area, which was, all of Houston, greater Houston, and, a big area, way outside of Houston, rural, urban, and suburban. I knew where they were on these issues. And I understand where the voters are. I'm in touch with them on a regular basis, being Lieutenant Governor, traveling the state. So we are focused on where Texas needs to lead, and that's what we're doing in the Texas Senate. I'm really proud of my members. They get all the credit, not me, But the leader always has to take responsibility, Chad.
Well, that's what I'm about to ask you.
Your members can't have a successful session unless your leader is successful.
Well, and then that's what I want to ask is if these pieces of legislation, which you say, and polls also, I would say, polls indicate that Republican voters, that voters across this state want something done with the bathroom bill. They want something done with property taxes, with school vouchers. They want this stuff. If these pieces of legislation die in the House, whose fault is that?
Well, I'm not picking a fight with the House, Chad, and I know, and look, you're a great guy, and I always enjoy being with you, and I work with the media very well. I'm not trying to pick a fight. I know the media would like to pitch that battle. That's not my job. My job is not to fight with the House. My job is to pass great conservative legislation to the House, and then let the people decide. But there's no question, at the end of the day, the buck always stops with the leader. The buck always stops with the leader. I said when I ran for office, I've said since the last session, Chad, whatever success we have, I give all the credit to the members because they have to do the committee work. They have to cast the tough votes. They have to put in the hours, the debate on the floor. I respect them. I was a senator for 8 years. I know how hard that job is. And Charles Perry, again, is a great conservative member we have. Thank God we have him. I give them the credit, but the responsibility is mine. The responsibility is mine is to get good bills to the right chairman, to the right committees, to get them to the floor, to get them voted out. It's very easy. If you don't have the committee set up right, if you don't have, the right conservative leaders as chairman, then bills die in committee. So you have, it's the whole structure is what I'm saying, Chad. It's the whole structure. Sure. It starts with, the issues, and it starts with the people to move them forward.
I have at least one more thing that I want to ask you about.
Yes,
and
sir.
Again, I appreciate you joining me today.
Sure.
The governor in his State of the State address didn't put it as an emergency item, but mentioned high-quality pre-K funding, said do it right or don't do it at all. And then the House and Senate both zeroed out high-quality pre-K funding that the governor wanted. Have you heard from the governor's office? Has there been any discussion about high-quality pre-K and about funding high-quality pre-K?
Yeah, great question, Chad. We spend, and some of the media, I think you know this, but some of the media don't realize this, we spend well over $1 billion in pre-K. And what the governor's plan was last year was to kind of create a special, you might say, special program to really focus on high quality to see if we can improve it, of which we supported last session, as did the House, and it passed. The price tag on that last year was about $120 million for 1 year. 2 years, it makes it $240 in this budget. It's a tight budget, but I think that before it's over, both chambers will find a way to address it at some level. It will depend on what the budget dollars are, but all of our pre-K needs to be high quality. So I agree. Look, I'm all on board with the governor in that respect, and I think all of our voters are. But what we don't want to do, Chad, is to spend $1 billion in pre-K only to have those students leave pre-K and go into a failing elementary school. It doesn't do any good. So we have to put our focus on every grade, but I think pre-K is important, but it has to be high quality. High quality is not spending money for kids to sit in front of, a television set or to have, minor work. We have to have really good pre-K teachers. It's expensive. So I think at the end, and we put money into it. I'm not sure what the House final budget will be. We had I think we ended up with $65 million in it, but we have a ways to go in the process. So the governor and I understand this issue, but if we're going to do it, I agree with the governor. We have to do it right.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, as always, I appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll visit as the session continues and on down the line as well.
Hey, Chad, I think this is really thank you for coming to the Capitol, and I think laying this out for the folks is just a really good way for you to share with the listeners where we are and what the goals are. But I'll leave it with this: what the people have asked us to do, the Republicans who elected us, and that's who we represent. We represent all the people. But what's the point of electing Republicans if Republicans, when they have the majority, don't do the job? That's what people are scratching their head about in Washington right now. That's why they're dissatisfied with Congress. I can assure you, as Lieutenant Governor of Texas, who's had a chance to listen to voters for 20 years talking about issues on talk radio, and 10 years and now 11 years in the Texas Senate, I intend to do what the voters asked me to do. And that's what we do in the Texas Senate, and that's what our senators do, and that's always my goal. Hey, thanks, Chad.
Lieutenant Governor, as always, appreciate your time.